it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. And we're zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question, and that was to expound upon and explain a little bit more of the acting in behaviors when it comes to being in a relationship with a covert narcissist or a psychopath, someone who has sort of a very mean streak, a mean edge, a need to overpower, a need to minimize others, a need to kind of shut others down to keep them happy, to keep them in their zone. Oftentimes it's taking others out of their zone to keep them in. So it's a very complex, very bewildering, and very hurtful situation. And it's really tough to take that slap. And also, I want to give a shout out. I recently had a viewer who asked me about what lip color, and I did find this. This is the color of, it's called Ruby. It's by NYX. It's like a lip pencil. And it's the NYX lingerie called Liply 23, and then Vivid Matte Liquid, Maybelline. This guys are like, what are you doing? This is number, sometimes they number these, 35. So thank you so much for your compliment, and I hope that tip helps. And I want to go a little bit more in depth into what, as you can see, we take all sorts of questions here. Looking in and focusing in, what does it mean to act in a relationship hurt? What does it mean to take it out on yourself? What does it mean to sabotage yourself? How to look at this pattern as the ramifications and results of an abusive relationship. An abusive relationship, one that is inhabited by a covert narcissist or a psychopathic individual, is someone who is, you're in a relationship with someone who is acting in a facade, a mask, a very superficial feelings, a superficial conversation. But yet they can be quite advanced professionally, financially, and seemingly very confident people. But they can also tend to have very superficial affect. In other words, it's meant for show and for show only. And this can be what is known as a persona, a facade, meaning a front, or sort of a mask. In other words, it can be also what is known as a public self. Sure, you're not going to have, you're not going to just spill forth your everyday feelings or thinking, well, but you should be able to have a fusion of your private and public self. In other words, have the self-trust, have the security, have things worked through so that there's a merging of your private and public self. So you're not one way here, one way another, one way here. It's just where there's this like splitting of values, and where you turn one on and turn one off. Now, a narcissist or a psychopath, that is exactly how they operate and how they hurt others, because they're acting from a very chameleon-like approach to life. Particularly when we're in more severe cases like a psychopath, they can pretend and portend to be a way which is completely contradictory to another sort of persona, almost what you might think with like multiple personalities, where they really do change the tone of their language, the tone of their demeanor, their vocabulary, and how they put it together. Even their countenance or how they look can change. It's a very subtle metamorphosis, or sometimes very, very obvious to the eye metamorphosis or change that they can take when they're kind of turning on and off this energy or personality. And if you've ever seen it, can be quite terrifying, because you've never seen a person almost change from like a lamb to a lion. I mean, just right there before your eyes. There is a big change in their energy. So when we talk about these people are abnormal, we are using that term literally. In other words, what you might see in a movie, like what they might do with special effects is the effect that you get from these people. And it can be very energetically cold, scary, like the energy has just left the room. You're in a different place. It's just, because they exude out this energy to manipulate, and then they can pull it in where they're not acting it anymore. So they can act the part, they can act the role. And we had a great viewer question, can this go on for years? Absolutely, of course. This is what they do all the time, 24/7. And it's not like they pass away at the age of 18. This is what they do for a life. And if they're going to be 40, 50, 60, 80, they're still doing this. I mean, they can be 87 saying that they're 73. I mean, it is remarkable the extent of the lies with which they live, and they try to get away with so much. It is the getting away with things that oftentimes is rewarding to them. And then the abuse with which they then project onto others, and they incur and then inflict on others can be very severe and very alarming. I mean, you feel like you've just been dropped off a cliff, dropped off a barge, into the murky water. You're dropped off the skyscraper, flailing through the sky for your life. You don't know where you're going to land. I mean, it can be very scary. And then your senses are all intertwined, and you can have depersonalization, dissociation, and then repeat that abuse inwardly to yourself as if, your own inner guidance system is like their hand continuing to inflict the abuse into your life. It's very scary. And that's the whole goal of the channel, is to help give you tools to resensitize yourself and empower yourself. So, and this does need to be incurred on many levels to get really your feedback on the ground, and your vision forward, and thinking clearly and feeling okay again. It can take a while. Yes, it can take some time, but you have to realize that oftentimes this becomes acted in, or as if reinforced, because how you have been treated in this negative, toxic manner, if you have allowed your boundaries to be lowered and you have been made vulnerable, in other words, not knowing, or hitherto in your life, not knowing that you had almost agreed to and then walked the walk of this abuse, taken it in, taken it on, subconsciously agreed with them that you are less than, not good enough, and you deserve to have this treatment, and then you begin to internalize it and then act it in. In other words, begin to march in course, begin to adopt the role. You become to be that with which they are expecting you to become. Not your own expectations, not your own vision, not your true life purpose, not your true interests. You are living as an extension of them. And then hence why we have the depersonalization and the terror, because you become, in essence, psychologically hijacked by this person's abuse. In other words, you internalize it and you then act it for them. You're satisfying them. You're satisfying their needs for supply. And so it can become self-sabotaging, self-annihilating, self-intoxicating, where you become addicted to this abuse, and then addicted to becoming overwhelmed by their needs. And oftentimes, in the psychopathic way, it becomes very much under the skin, under your observation while it is occurring, but subconsciously and subtly, you know that you are going contrary to your best interests, contrary to your inner truth, contrary to what you want. It's almost, you become tricked, though, to fooling like this is going to be better than what you could ever get for yourself, or what you're thinking for yourself. In other words, there is a trickery to the manipulation. In other words, your expectations, I am giving you more than you had expected, or I'm now giving you the good life. Yet the psychopath has no intention of delivering this to you. It is all a facade and a social engineered sort of way of their persona. And people then begin to internalize it and then walk it. And so oftentimes they can be in relationships for these people with decades, and have children or businesses, and have the books entangled, and you find that this person is pilfering or embezzling, and then you thought this was your trusted business partner, your trusted spouse, and you have some jaw-dropping moments. People who sabotage you, who, and then go as far as to psychologically terrorize you, do things to your car, doing things to your family, setting people out to follow you, or seemingly so. you begin to become overwhelmed and you can't think for yourself. It's a horrible, terrifying situation for those sort of victims to be in. And furthermore, the coming through to the other side is what is necessary to realize that it is not a healthy thing to be empowered. It is not a desirable position for you. It is not healthy for you. It has their betterment in mind, not your betterment in mind. And so you have to realize and make the decision now to go into the direction of what is best for you, positive, orderly direction thinking. And this is where you become empowered. You become desirable to yourself. Your betterment becomes the important thing, and your health and your wellness becomes the optimal goal, and is that which you decide upon and then become. And then the person you become is the empowered you, and realizing that it's not the unattractive, undesirable, person that they're projecting you to be. It's almost as if they're trying to cast a dust cloud around you. It's almost like a tear gas, or like putting a gray on you when you're a colorful, vibrant person. They're trying to fog your thoughts, fog your talents, make you unattractive and feel unattractive. So you have to work even harder and harder and harder for them to maintain the relationship. And then you turn around and then you find out that they're cheating, that they're, it's living a lie. It is living a lie. It is an awful, mind-blowing, eye-opening situation. And yes, you can come to the other side. You need to get out from underneath their guise, out from underneath their need to control. I mean, if they want to go and terrorize and do, but just don't let that be you. I mean, don't try to change them. Don't try to save them. That's where a lot of people get fooled, is that they try to, change this person and, become their number one. If they're in, they find out this person is cheating and they're trying to, work things out, when oftentimes it is, you cannot change. These people are not susceptible to change. So it is an acknowledgement and acceptance of this, and realizing you do not want to be the victim anymore, that is not a place for you. That is not a happy place. It's not going to work out. Like the fairy tale, has a happier ending when you step out of the muck, when you step out of the cement that's trying to keep you stuck. I liken it to an analogy as if, basically it's like you're putting your foot in quicksand, or you're putting your feet in wet cement. They want to keep you stuck. And if you're feeling that way is stuck or blocked, that is someone who's trying to overpower you. And that is not your inner voice, your inner life, your inner truth coming forth. That is what life is calling you to. That is what your higher purpose is calling you to. And it's not me, it's the bigger life plan that is trying to get your attention. It'll get your attention in many sundry ways until eventually it'll become glaringly obvious to you, and then you have to stop it, or it'll be stopped for you. It just becomes that rock bottom. So if you have felt this, it's a time to have an eye-opening aha moment. It's time to have it's time to have a self-embrace, I've got you moment. I've got you here. We're going forward. And then you're getting in touch with your higher purpose, your higher truth, the God source, the archangels, your spiritual guides, Archangel Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, the higher entities in life that are there to put things together and guide you. Like, it's almost as if, wind, like the John Mellencamp song, the wind catches you under your feet and sends you flying. What is that song by John Mellencamp? I'm sure someone will have that. Sets you flying. I forgot what that song is, but it's that experience where life begins to then carry you. Your higher purpose then begins to empower you. It is that momentum with which you are seeking to direct and control yourself by, and it comes with respect. It comes with having a boundary. It comes with having a higher standard, and it comes with a lack of tolerance of being treated, for a lesser than person with which you are, because they will try to put you into a too small shoe size, a too small life size, a lid in your life that is so low, that you eventually begin to feel and then bubble over with your life purpose, that you're blowing the lid off of it. You can't, you will no longer take being in the trap. You have to release it. It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. And I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.